Raiders continue to construct their roster with guys that love football, have a competitive edge, and even a chip on their shoulder. That plus more on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 29th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. We shout him out. We appreciate him. You can find him on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. We'll close out the show and close out the week hearing from you. A lot of good calls, a lot of good texts. We'll do that as we close things out. Segment number 2, we're going to take you back, Raider Nation. I'm going to take you way back, as a matter of fact. On Thursday, I got a sense of deja vu, and I know Raider Nation did as well, as the trade from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. Micah Parsons from Big D to Green Bay. Very reminiscent of the time when Khalil Mack was traded from the Raiders to the Chicago Bears. And I had a lot of folks hitting me up saying, Q, the Raiders should have made that deal. Should they have or should they not have? We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2. We'll give you the details of all that. Again, a little sense of deja vu with Micah Parsons going to the Green Bay Packers. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and just has to do with more roster construction. We'll hear from head coach Pete Carroll and backup quarterback Kenny Pickett. That's after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So, in true Pete Carroll and Raiders form, they continue to tinker with the roster. They made a couple moves after the initial 53-man roster. I let you know, don't put that thing in red ink, right? Don't put it in stone, because there's going to be moves that will be consistently made. And on Thursday, there was another couple moves that were made. The Raiders claimed safety Tristan McCullum off of waivers by way of the Eagles. He's a second-year safety, joins the Raiders after spending the last 2 seasons with the Eagles. Spent 2023 on the Eagles practice squad and was elevated to the active roster for 3 games before earning his spot on the active roster for the entirety of the 2024 season. He played in 14 regular season games with 2 starts, all 4 postseason games, part of the Eagles Super Bowl run, and over his 17 regular season games over 2 seasons with Philly, McCullum recorded 36 tackles, 20 solo, 2 pass defense, as well as 3 special teams tackles. So there you go. Another player comes in from the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Again, the Raiders have multiple guys from Philly in the Raiders front office, so they're trying to cherry pick players that are coming from these organizations that they know really well. Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Denver, all these locations where they have guys that are in the front office that came from those different spots. They're trying to go and cherry pick from there. Now, the thing about McCullum, 6'3", 195. Yeah, he fits the bill, right? He's the size of a true Pete Carroll defensive back. So he's going to be added to that safety room. Again, entered the league as an undrafted free agent with the Houston Texans, spent the entirety of the 2022 season on the Texans practice squad before ending up in Philadelphia. And a corresponding move, the Raiders waived safety Thomas Harper. So, again, when you make the initial 53-man roster, that's fantastic. That's what, that's what you want to do. But know that you can't get too comfortable and get too settled, because things could change, especially if you're one of those guys that were on the bubble, one of those fringe guys, one of those guys that just weren't sure if we were going to see them waived or released. And, okay, they made the initial 53-man roster. That's great. But now you have to still make it through a wave of other moves that could happen, not only with your team, but other teams across the league that could be, a snowball effect, a ripple effect. Now the Raiders see a guy that they have some interest in. Hey, he can help us. Okay, let's go get him. And now we have to move on from someone. So they moved on from Thomas Harper. Now, this happened after we actually had an opportunity to talk to Coach Pete Carroll, or we would have asked him, what his thoughts on McCullum were. So we didn't get to do that. But there was a few thoughts that we got from Pete Carroll. I also want you to hear from Kenny Pickett. So off top, here's Coach Carroll as he opened up the press conference on Thursday.
Okay, if I could start you out, I would do it with we selected captains today. On defense, Max Crosby was elected captain to the defense. On offense, Geno Smith was elected captain, and A.J. Cole was elected captain for special teams. So real proud of those guys. They have been leading since the moment we got here, and they're exactly the right guys. Obviously, these guys voted them almost unanimously. So really proud to represent our club with those guys.
Raiders have 3 captains, right? There's been times when the Raiders have had 3. There's been times when they've had 6. There's been times when they've had, you know what I mean? It just seems like it's all over the place. They have 3, and it makes sense. 1 on defense, 1 on offense, and 1 on special teams. Wow, what a concept, right? So on defense, Max Crosby makes all the sense in the world. Offense, Geno Smith, and then special teams, A.J. Cole. So that was Coach Carroll. He started the press conference before any questions were asked. And then Adam Hill asked a question about the overall makeup of the roster being the 53 as it is right now and the additions that have been made. How is Coach Carroll feeling about it? What does he think about the roster?
Well, what I like about it is we have a lot of guys that have come here on a personal mission to prove that they deserve to be here. And there's a bunch of chips on those shoulders now. I mean, these guys got something to prove. I feel the same way. And we've shared that kind of mentality, going through it. And I really like going to battle with these guys because of where their head's at. And they've proven it on the practice field and as we've worked. And now it's time to go. But it feels that there's a commonality about that. And I see it particularly on the defensive side.
Competition is always the key when it comes to Pete Carroll, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make up this roster full of guys that want to compete, full of guys that love football, full of guys that even have chips on their shoulder, right? And you heard Pete Carroll talk about that as well. And there's a lot of guys on this roster, including Geno Smith, right? The quarterback, right? A guy that at one point was counted out, right? He said they wrote me off. I didn't write back, right? Max Crosby, he's a guy that always has a chip on his shoulder. He went in the 4th round, right? Didn't think that that's where he should go, right? Eric Stokes, he was a former 1st-round pick, and really basically he's been written off. So there's a lot of guys on this roster. Zamir White, right? A guy that a lot of people, including myself, didn't think that he was going to be on the roster this year. Like, there's a lot of dudes on this Raiders team that have that edge to them that kind of I want to go out there and prove it. And I'll tell you, and this is something that I take a lot of pride in. I don't know if I should or not, but whenever I feel slighted, whenever I feel like someone has either done me dirty, and I think done me dirty is kind of probably a too loose of a statement because I'm not going to really ever be done dirty, but just, not giving me the proper due that I feel like I should get. That's when I have like my best shows, right? Because it's like I'm out to prove something. I got that kind of mentality where it's like, okay, I'll show you. And that's the kind of edge and that's the kind of mentality that Pete Carroll's looking for from his players, right? Guys that, people think, oh, you're not really that guy. Oh, you're not really, going to make it in the league. Oh, you're not big enough. You're not fast enough. You're not this, that, and the other. And they go, oh, we'll show you, right? When you think about the Legion of Boom in Seattle, Pete Carroll constructed that Legion of Boom with 1 first-round pick, Earl Thomas. Everyone else was not a first-round pick. Richard Sherman, 5th-round pick, right? I mean, so he's good at getting the most out of guys that have feel kind of slighted, guys that feel like people are sleeping on them, not giving them due respect. Tyree Wilson, how many times have people written off Tyree Wilson? All of a sudden, he's out there playing and looking really good so far. Obviously, he's got to get into the regular season, but it's just, again, guys that have that kind of mentality is the guys that Pete Carroll is looking for. So what does that mean for edge Brennan Jackson? Brennan Jackson is the guy that they claimed off of waivers from the LA Rams. Here's Coach Pete Carroll on Brennan Jackson, what his thoughts on him were.
Yeah, he's really physical and tough guy. We're really impressed with his motor, chasing the football, coming off the edge. He was effective in the running game and the passing game, but he just really, it's his mentality. He adds to the mentality that we're trying to instill in the whole club, and I think that he'll find it very comfortable with the mentality that we're asking for. Hard, tough, every day, grind it out, and I think he's going to be a nice fit for us. We'll see. I saw him one time, so I don't know.
So in a much shorter explanation, Coach Carroll basically, he kind of said the same thing that Kirk Morrison said about Brennan Jackson as well, just kind of what they like in him, what they believe he can do. And as you heard him say at the end, we'll see. I've only got to see him once, but sounds like the kind of guy they're looking for. And, I talked about earlier organizations that have really good players that they really respect. The Rams are one of them, right? What Les Snead and company are doing there in L.A., obviously they've got a really good roster, and they're really good at finding guys in lower rounds that are good, right? How many times did they not have first-round picks because they were trading them all away? That's all right. They found guys that were later-round picks or guys that are undrafted and fit them with what they wanted to do, found true football players to go out there and help them be successful. So another guy that they brought in, including Brennan Jackson, they did that on Wednesday. They also brought in Stone Forsythe. He's the guy that replaced Thayer Mumford after he got waived. So here's Coach Pete Carroll on what he likes in Stone, a guy that he drafted back in 2021 in Seattle.
Stone's a legit right tackle. He's played on the left. left side as well, and I saw him late in preseason doing swinging. But he's a real physical, tough guy. You can't get any bigger. He's 6'8", but he's got a great mentality about it. That's why we picked him, but then we learned who he was and what he was all about. So when we had a chance to get him, we had to do what it took. And fortunately, he's with us. So he'll play right tackle, but he could well swing in games if we needed him to.
So we assumed that he was just going to be, the Thayer Munford role. I know John Spytek talked about that as well, and be a swing tackle, and he will. He'll have the swing tackle to him, but you hear what Pete Carroll's talking about, right tackle, right tackle, right tackle. Like, he said that so many times. If I'm DJ Glaze, I'm making sure I'm on my A game. If I'm DJ Glaze, I'm making sure I'm not caught slipping, right? You better really be able to hold it down. And I know that there's a lot of video out there about Stone Forsythe that doesn't look good. I know that he wasn't highly rated, PFF regarded, but there's a lot of folks that kind of vouch for him, that say, no, actually he's a really good player. He's just certain things he does obviously better than others, but he's not a bad player at all. So if I'm DJ Glaze, at the very end of the day, at least I make sure that I'm on my A game, because there is someone behind me that's hungry, that has familiarity with the head coach, and could come in to take my place. Now, finally, I want you to hear from Kenny Pickett, and he talked for about 7 or 8 minutes, and I led off the questions that I asked him, but I had a bunch of questions that I want to ask him. So I'm just going to play you the whole chunk of me and the questions that I have for Kenny Pickett. It wasn't like this. It's not like I took over the whole presser. It wasn't at all, but this is just the questions that I asked. I just kind of put them all together. Here's Kenny Pickett and his press conference opportunity, the questions I had for him on Thursday. Check it out.
Kenny, was this opportunity here with the Raiders feel like for you?
Yeah, I think, looking at this whole thing, these guys have been working for a long time since before I got here. So, I'm taking it very seriously to be ready to go out there, whatever happens, and be ready to perform. So that's kind of just where my mindset is right now.
Coach said that there's guys on this roster that have chips on their shoulders. Would you be one of those guys?
Yeah, I think I can add to that. I really resonate with a lot of the guys here. I played against Max twice, and, I think from the first snap to the last, we were going back and forth the entire game. So you want guys like that on your team, and, he's a great one to have.
How does this Chip Kelly offense fit with what you do?
I think, just looking at it early, he's good friends with Mark Whipple, who was my OC at the University of Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of similarities there. I'm going to call Coach Whip this weekend and talk to him some more about it. But a lot of the things I did in college is similar to what he's doing. So I'm kind of taking the teaching I have from Coach Whip and utilizing it here without much coaching that I've been able to get yet. So just going off of instincts and that.
What did you learn from being in the Philadelphia Eagles organization, them being a championship team?
Yeah, just, they showed me, just the process to become a champion. Like, every single day I understood it from, the front office to the coaching staff to the players. Everything's connected. You're doing everything for a reason. There are no questions on what the standard is. And I think having that, seeing it day by day, where if a guy gets out of line a little bit, the whole team's there to stop him back in, and we're going again. So the main goal was the Super Bowl. Everyone's goal was that, from first on the depth chart to third. Guys were working hard, staying after practice, staying extra in meetings. There's no secret to be great. So that when you have that throughout the roster, throughout the team, you'll find those results on Sundays.
So there you go. We're talking about opportunities, talking about chip on the shoulder, right? Going back to what Pete Carroll was talking about, Chip Kelly and his offense, learning from Philly. I think those are all good things. And I mean, again, you hear good stuff from Kenny Pickett. It sounds like Pete Carroll is excited about what Kenny Pickett brings to the table. And, it sounds like he's pretty pumped up. He's got familiarity with Geno Smith. He told us as well that he was training with Geno this offseason. He actually worked with Cam Miller as well. So he's got some folks in the building that he's definitely comfortable with, and he's just trying to be one of those guys that finds a spot, right? I mean, he's been now on 4 teams, right? He went from Pittsburgh to Philly, from Philly to Cleveland, now Cleveland to the Raiders. And so Pete Carroll has mentioned, hey, Chip, he better have a chip on his shoulder. As many times he's been traded, he should have a chip on his shoulder. So we'll see what Kenny Pickett brings to the table. Again, he's got a 1-year deal, so he could very easily be on to the next team after this season, or maybe the Raiders see something that they like in him and they decide they want to keep him around a little bit longer than that. Well, that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2, I got to take you down memory lane, right? A little bit of deja vu happened to me on Thursday when the news of Micah Parsons getting traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers rolled out right at the beginning of my radio show. I'll break it on down. We'll talk about the deal, and should the Raiders have made that move, what would it have done for this year's team? We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know about a couple great sponsors that we have here on the show. And Raider Nation, the first one is Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Stop it. Cut it out. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. All you got to do, download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use the promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, you know how it is. I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. I also want to tell you about our good friends at Gametime. NFL season is back. Honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, long screens, prices jumping at checkout. It is frustrating. Unless you're my guy, Vegas Jess, then tickets just appear in your hand. But for everyone else who's not Vegas Jess, you need Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage and gives the advantage back to the fans. It's fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is actually the price that you pay. The app is super simple. You can see the exact view from your seat before you buy. And when you pull up Gametime, in just a couple taps, you'll see amazing deals. I mean, your favorite NFL games as low as $100. They've got zone deals too. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big money. So what do you got to do? Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go. Download Gametime today. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Got to take you back, got to take you down memory lane, a little deja vu for Raider Nation. And some of it will be okay because it's been some years later. Some will still be a little triggered when they hear this conversation. And I'll tell you, I got a little, feeling some kind of way, even talking about it, even reading about it on Thursday, right as my radio show was starting. And that is the fact that the Cowboys traded star edge rusher, Micah Parsons, to the Green Bay Packers. And Raider Nation, this is how it happened. I'm sitting there, myself and Ari, getting ready to start the show. No joke. The show starts at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Unnecessary roughness, Raider Nation Radio, 920. It's like a movie. If it's scheduled for 2, it's going to play at 2. So it was 1:59. No joke. 1:59:59. The intro is playing. We're going to talk about offense. Matter of fact, Del Amigo Raider, I was actually going to use his text message that he had on the show on Thursday to get into a conversation about the Raiders offense. And at that time, bloop, I get a tweet, Adam Schefter, and it says that Micah Parsons is headed to the Green Bay Packers. This is not a joke. This is not a mistake. This is not a burner account. This is the real deal. And I could not believe it. Micah Parsons, I know that he was in this standstill with Jerry Jones, and I know that the Cowboys, and them, they always kind of seem to work it out on their own time, and they always take forever, and I call them for entertainment purposes only for a reason. Did not think that was going to happen, just like I didn't believe many years ago that Khalil Mack was going to get traded to the Chicago Bears. But in fact, this is what happened. So let me go ahead and give you the details, and we'll talk about should the Raiders have made this move? Should they have full court press? Now, I know a lot of teams called into the Cowboys, reached out to the Cowboys with interest. I believe the Raiders were one of them, but maybe they could have upped the ante. And I want your thoughts. I got my thoughts. I'll share them with you in a minute, but I want your thoughts on if you think that the Raiders should have upped the ante to try to get Micah Parsons. So Micah Parsons received, 4-year, $188 million deal, 120 guaranteed, $67 million this year. He's going to average $47 million a year. Remember, Max Crosby just got his contract, just got extended in March, and he was the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. He's making $35 million a year. Micah Parsons is all the way up to $47 million. It's not even September 1. So that in a handful of months, a short handful of months, all of a sudden the highest paid non-quarterback goes from $35 million a year to $47 million a year. So the Packers, they get Micah Parsons, and this is the deal. From 2021 to 2025, he's played in 63 games, 52.5 career sacks. Dallas receives 2 first-round picks, defensive tackle Kenny Clark, who has 35 career sacks, and he's been in the league since 2016. And that's it. And that is it. I couldn't believe it when I'm watching and I'm going through it on my radio show in real time. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get the notification on what they're getting because this has got to be blockbuster, right? They're going to get all kind of draft capital in return. 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. And that's it. Jerry Jones spoke on Thursday, and he said that one of the deal sealers was the defensive tackle Kenny Clark. They wanted a big-time defensive tackle. Any team that they were going to trade with had to have a big-time defensive tackle. So for the Raiders, I guess that would have been Adam Butler, right? That would have been the best guy that they could have traded. Maybe they could have tried to trade Christian Wilkins before they moved on from him, but that's another conversation. I shouldn't have gone there. But still, that's what they would have had to give up. He said that the defensive tackle, because they want to be able to stop the run, they can win more games if they can stop the run than they can get into the quarterback. That's Jerry's words, not mine. It's Jerry's words. But it made me immediately, Raider Nation, think back to that dark day, September 1st in 2018. And it was a Saturday morning. I remember it, right? I was in Texas at the time. I came off a night of high school football, and everyone had been talking about, Q, you think the Raiders are going to trade Khalil Mack? No, it's not going to happen. Why would they trade him? He's a generational pass rusher. That's not going to happen. They need him. He's a difference maker. And then, of course, I woke up the next morning, and they had traded him. And I was sick. Right? I mean, for anyone who doesn't know the story, I was so sick. I got up. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't wash up. Nothing. I didn't go to the bathroom. I put on my clothes, went outside, and I mowed the lawn. And we had a whole lot of lawn there in Central Texas, right? We had plenty of lawn. So I did that. I was angry. I had my earbuds in, listening to 90s and 2000s hip hop, and I was probably the loudest dude in the room. You know when you got like headphones on and you're louder than you really think that you are, and everyone in the room is looking at you like, why are you so loud? Right? So like you got a song in your head and you're like, yeah, down south where I stay. And they're like, why are you screaming? You're like, oh, I got these headphones on, my fault. Anyway, that's what I was doing in the backyard because I was so mad. I think I was walking hard on the grass. Like I probably have footprints on the grass. I was so angry, but this is the deal. Check out this trade. This is what happened when the Raiders traded edge rusher Khalil Mack to the Bears, September 1st, 2018. Look at the date. So close, right? Again, right before the season started. That's what it was for the Raiders. 1 week before the season started. And now we're going into Labor Day weekend. Monday is September 1st. So the Bears received Khalil Mack. And they also got a 2020 second-round pick, a 2020 conditional fifth-round pick. Khalil Mack signed a 6-year, $141 million contract with $90 million fully guaranteed, $60 million at signing. Think about that. Think about how times have changed. Micah Parsons signs a 4-year, $188 million deal with $120 guaranteed. Mack signed a 6-year deal, $141 with $90 million fully guaranteed. Now, granted, that was 2018. It's 2025, 7 years later. The Raiders received a 2019 first-round pick, also a 6th-round pick, a 2020 first-round pick, and a 2020 third-round pick. So they got that in return, and I would still say that wasn't enough. I still don't think that the Raiders came out on the right side of things. We know how it is with the draft picks that they actually made. They did not get the job done with those picks either. So you can have all the picks that you want. If you're not picking the right players, it doesn't matter. But it really feels like the Raiders still even got more than the Dallas Cowboys got in return for one Micah Parsons. So you can imagine, as I had a plan for my show on Thursday, it turned into the Micah Parsons show, and why didn't the Raiders go make that move? I said I don't think that they were in position, and I do want to hear from you at 707-654-4693. I don't think they were in position to make that trade because, well, they got Geno Smith, their quarterback, right now, for sure. He's under contract for a couple years, right? They got him the rights to him for 3 years. You still don't necessarily have your franchise quarterback. So if you don't have any first-round picks, where and how are you going to get your guy, right? That's one argument. The other argument was I don't think that they're one Micah Parsons away from being that championship team. But as many people called into my show on Thursday, man, could you imagine Allegiant Stadium, how fired up Raider Nation would be if you had stud Micah Parsons and stud Max Crosby on the same defensive line? Now, if you go off the contract that Micah Parsons got, right, $47 million a year and Max Crosby's making $35, that's $82 million a year for one position. That's also something that's not realistic in the National Football League that you're going to get that. But I mean, again, it's one of those things. Could the Raiders have made it work? Should the Raiders have made it work, right? We all know that Patrick Graham and his defense is based off what? Getting pressure on the quarterback. If they can get pressure on the quarterback, then they have an opportunity. And we know everything behind the defensive line. You know, the linebackers are veterans, but they haven't played together. And then the secondary is obviously young. They're still trying to gel as well. But everyone gets that much better when all of a sudden you get a guy in Micah Parsons who basically is going to get you about 12 sacks a season at least, and you know that, right? 4 seasons, 52.5 sacks. I mean, think about that. Khalil Mack only had 40.5 sacks in 4 years, right? He only had 4 his rookie year, and then he had 15 the next year. I think 11 the year after that, and then whatever he had after that. I can't remember, another 11 or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, but it equals the 40.5, right? Micah Parsons at 52.5 after 4 years. So that's pretty wild. Now, Khalil was always healthy. He never missed a game. Micah Parsons has missed a few games in his career. 4 years, he's played in 63 games. Khalil Mack played in 64. And as we know, the NFL now has 17 games and have had it for a few years now. So he should have played in more regular season games. But, I mean, hey, whatever. He's done more in less time. So the other thing, and I asked Lincoln Kennedy when he joined my radio show on Thursday as well, should the Raiders have gone 10 toes down and tried to get Micah Parsons? He said, cue the culture. They're trying to create a culture. Pete Carroll is trying to work with young dudes, try to build them up, trying to get the right leadership in the locker room. And you can't disturb that with a guy like Micah Parsons. Great talent, phenomenal talent, right? Love to have him out there. But he's also a guy that, went all training camp, didn't go out there and practice, didn't do anything, just was very, kind of look at me over here, sitting on the training table, laying on the training table, right? Just kind of doing whatever he wants to do, telling other teams, fans, hey, tell your team to give the call, come get me, whatever the case may be. The culture would not be right with Micah Parsons. And this is a question that I have. I don't know the answer to it. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know the answer to it. I wonder how it would go if they did make that move and all of a sudden they gave that contract to Micah Parsons and Max Crosby, who's been blood, sweat, and tears with the Raiders since he was drafted in the 4th round back in 2019, just basically got his contract deal, and he's at $35 million a year. All of a sudden, they go and get this guy and give him $47 million a year. I don't know how well that would go over. I know it wasn't that great when the Raiders went and made the move for Christian Wilkins, signed him as a free agent, and they gave him all that money. I know there was rumblings of, hey, man, you better take care of Max because he recruited him, and now he's making more than him. That's not going to work out. Again, Max might not care. Max might have been like, hey, I got my running buddy. That's great. But according to Jerry Jones, whatever team was going to trade for him had to be a team that was going to send a defensive tackle back in return. And, for him to do that trade in the NFC against the Green Bay Packers, who are basically their rivalry, right? It's one of their big rivals that's not in the division, but it's still in their conference. That is completely wild. So, it's so funny. We talk about serious teams, unserious teams, and for entertainment purposes only. When you start to look at the Raiders and say, oh, yeah, we're just for entertainment purposes only. No. You look over there. That's entertainment, right? I mean, look, that's real entertainment, right? If you're saying that the Raiders are for entertainment purposes only, maybe they're, that stop that you make on Fremont Street when there's someone performing in the little circle and you watch for a couple seconds, you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you flip them $1 or $2 and then you keep it moving. Maybe that's the level of entertainment that the Raiders are. That ain't the Cowboy entertainment, right? They are absolutely for entertainment purposes only. They're box office material, right? I mean, they just stole every single headline. I couldn't do my show. I really couldn't. Every time I tried to turn my attention to something else, I was talking to Steve Weiss from the NFL Network, and he's going to be at a fantastic game this Sunday on the call, HBCU game, and I asked him about it. He's like, Q, you're burying the lead, man. It's all about Micah Parsons. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to be respectful. Like, I couldn't turn my attention to anything but Micah Parsons and how it all kind of came back. It felt like it came back to the Raiders because of what happened on September 1st, 2018. So I don't think that the Raiders should have made that move. I don't blame them for checking in because they should. Good organizations are always going to check in on players that could be available. I think that they made the right move not to give up the draft capital, not to give up a player, and not to give up that kind of salary. It's a lot of money, man. 4-year, $188 million, $120 guaranteed. He's going to get $67 million this year based off of, the contract he has and what he's going to make, but he's going to average $47 million a year. That doesn't just, reset the non-quarterback market. That shatters it, right? I mean, if you think about this, in March, Max Crosby was at 35. It is now at 47. And to put it all in perspective, Jacoby Myers, who wants to get a contract extension, he's supposed to make $10.5 million this year. So that gap between Max Crosby and Micah Parsons is more than what Jacoby Myers is supposed to make this year. That's wild. And so when everyone says, oh, Jacoby, I can't believe he asked for a trade, he didn't do that. He didn't do that, right? All he's done is do everything the right way. So we were actually going to talk about Jacoby. I was going to let you hear the conversation I had with Michael Giannitti from SpotTrack.com, but I just felt like this was a bigger conversation to talk about. So we'll go ahead and we'll push that conversation with Giannitti. We'll do that for Monday. September 1st, as a matter of fact, Labor Day. That'll be on that show, obviously more as well. But I do want to hear from you. What do you think? Should the Raiders have gone the full court press to get Micah Parsons and make him part of the bloodthirsty Pirates that are the Raiders' defensive line? Should they have made that happen? Should they really have pressed to go get him? Or are you okay with the fact that Green Bay made the call and made it happen and not the Raiders? Let me know your thoughts. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next as we close out the show. Today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want you to know that this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already over. College football, it is going on, right? Real games are happening. Whether you got your eye on a big-name quarterback or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. And I'll tell you right now, man, PrizePicks is simple to play. That's what it's all about. You want something that's simple but fun. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your pick right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Folks who use PrizePicks for multiple seasons now, they love how simple it is. You can get a lineup in before your coffee finishes brewing. They got a flex play option as a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double your money. And PrizePicks, they always put their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Right now, download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play $5. PrizePicks, run your game. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Also, if you can't call in, you can't text in, you can always tweet at us, at Ari Produces or at your boy Q254, just like my guy Drew from the 916 did. He's on Twitter, at Homie Cracker. His handle, not mine. Yo, Q. Drew from the 916 here. Thank you and Ari for the daily content. I start my morning work with you every day. 7 years flew by. Congratulations on that work anniversary. I just wanted to send a quick message to Raider Nation and anyone calling for us to be for entertainment purposes only franchise. For each and every slight move they may disagree with, we are very much not in that category. We are not even close to that clown show that is the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry, at this point, is the worst GM in the NFL, and I don't think it's close. So listen up, Raider Nation. Don't think that we're slipping into that category anytime soon with the leadership we have in place. Our front office would never have made that move with Max. Instead, they did the smart thing, which was pay the man before all the insanity began. $35 million a year is nothing compared to $47 million. And it's just because, as a serious organization, we didn't mess around and got it done early, didn't drag our feet. I know you'll have some comments back to me on this, Q. I look forward to your thoughts. Thanks again for all you do. Can't wait to see how the season plays out. Raiders. That's my guy, Drew from the 916, at Homie Cracker on Twitter. Yeah, you said it perfectly. Definitely not a team that's for entertainment purposes only. Those dudes in the Big D, yes. That's why there's a Netflix special. Apparently it's fantastic. I haven't checked it out, but apparently it's great. That's the reason why. They're for entertainment purposes only, and they want to be for entertainment purposes only. Even if you listen to the presser that Jerry had, it was so laughable. It really was. It's like, wow, this dude is really actually saying all this stuff. It's so wild. And only thing I needed was that line from John Gruden when he said that, a great pass rusher is hard to find. Right? Remember when he said that after he traded Khalil Mack and the Raiders couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback? It's like, well, a great pass rusher is hard to find. Is this thing on? You had one, right? So that was the only thing. But everything else, Jerry, is absolute comedy. Definitely for entertainment purposes only. Drew from the 916, thanks so much for that tweet. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider X. He's calling to talk about the culture the Raiders are trying to create, how they're going about it with John Spytek and head coach Pete Carroll. Here's Raider X.
Yo, Q, this is Raider X. Just want to talk a little bit of Raider football and talk about the culture of the Raiders and what they're building. As you can see from the moves that they're doing, getting Pickett, making those moves for Jackson and, switching out, with Munford and making some moves with Stone, you can see that they're, evaluating player by player, piece by piece, and creating depth or putting people in what Spytek and Carroll, really envision as the players that they need. I just really also wanted to talk about, I know your conversations where you're talking about Harper and, and some of the things that you envision in the future of what he was going to do or he wasn't going to do. But as you can see from that move, that they just picked up Tristan McCollum. As you can see, the links of the Philly tree, some of the Pittsburgh tree coming out from Grant, and also seeing what's taking place out of some of the familiarities coming out of the Bucks, out of Tampa. Just wanted to talk about some of the players, and that's why I think it also is important about the Micah Parsons trade, that they're trying to get players that are their culture, their people, their things that they envision. They're building it from the ground up into their vision. I believe they're doing great things. Raider X out.
Raider X, man, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, the team is absolutely trying to create that culture. And that's why Lincoln Kennedy said Micah Parsons wouldn't have been a good addition to the locker room. Great player, fantastic player, right? I mean, one of the best in the business, but he wouldn't be good for the culture that they're trying to create. But they are getting guys from Philly. They are getting guys from Tampa Bay. They are getting guys from Denver, Pittsburgh, right? Places that they have stops, right? Guys that are in the building where they've been at. And plus winning organizations, right? And I know we could look at Denver and we're like, oh, Denver's not really a winning organization. No, but, when guys were there, right? Brian Stark, who's the assistant GM of the Raiders right now, he's been part of winning teams there in Denver, teams that won Super Bowls. So he knows what it looks like there as well. So they're from all over, but they're really good, sharp, talent evaluating type minds. So if there's anyone to really trust and believe in, it's those guys. And so that's why, again, every move that they make is not going to be the home run. It's not going to be, even a win. Some moves are going to miss on, but for the most part, I really trust in what they're doing because they do come from those organizations and the proof is out there already. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from the 763. Said, question for the show. I watched all 3 preseason games, and none of them showed Chip Kelly. Just the other day, Pete Carroll made the announcement Patrick Graham would be calling plays from the sideline, not the booth. Do you know if he's addressed where Chip is going to be this season? Appreciate the podcast. Take care. That's from the 763. Chip will be in the booth, right? And I asked the question about Patrick Graham on the sideline, and he said that he likes him on the sideline. But Chip's definitely going to be in the booth. That's where he's been. That's where he was at Ohio State. He gets the all-22 view from that angle and really likes to call the plays from there. So, yeah, Chip Kelly will definitely be in the booth. Patrick Graham will be on the field. I kind of like Patrick Graham better in the booth, but, Pete Carroll had his reasons for having Patrick Graham on the field, and Patrick Graham, I think, likes it more than being in the booth as well because you get the feel of the game, you get the emotions of the game, you can look the players in the eye, what Pete Carroll said, and I know Patrick Graham kind of reiterates that as well. So thanks so much for the text. Next time you text in, you got to give me your name so I don't call you by your area code. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate it. I just got time for a couple more. Cyrese from the Bay, right? Cyrese in the Bay, man. In the Bay, man, right? You remember that, Mac Mall, back in the day? He's calling to ask a question that's been riding with him for a few days now and just needs to ask it. Here he is, Cyrese in the Bay.
What up, Q? Cyrese from the Bay, man. Just counting the days until football starts, man. I don't know if you feel that excitement, but it's definitely got me on the edge of my seat, man. It's just like it can't come fast enough. I had a question for you, man. A thought crept into my head the other day, and I couldn't quite shake it. But the question I have for you is, do you think we might be falling into a little bit of a trap into thinking that certain parts of the Raiders team are better than they actually are based on what we've been hearing and seeing in all these practices? Specifically, do we think maybe the Raiders wide receiver core is a little bit better than it really is? And I'll bring it up because of all the stuff that's been happening around the wide receiver core. But remember last year, we all thought the defense was going to be so much better than it was. And the reason is because we were hearing about how great they look in practices, all the picks they were getting and the sacks they were getting, and how they were just, stopping the offense at every opportunity. And, well, it turns out it just kind of looked that way because, let's be honest, the Raiders' offense was terrible. And it just made the defense look so much better than it actually was. I'm kind of wondering that about the Raiders wide receivers right now. Are they looking better than they really are in practice because they're just going up against a bad secondary? And I say that because I remember just thinking for a second when I was watching some of these preseason games that the Raiders wide receivers look okay, they look good, but they weren't really cooking their one-on-one matchups. And I guess some of that is because Pete Carroll, treated his preseason games like practice, where they weren't scheming up anything, to try and get their guys open. They pretty much just played ISO ball, which I think is really smart because it gives you a much better idea of your players' true strengths and weaknesses, because you're not trying to scheme them open. You're not trying to, use the scheme to the advantage. You're putting it all on that player to win their one-on-one matchups. But they looked okay, but they weren't like dunking on anybody. Let's put it that way. So anyway, as somebody who's seen some of the practices firsthand, who's seen what they look like, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that. I think the offense overall is going to be good for all the reasons that we talked about, but that's the one thing I was just curious about. Anyway, let me hear your thoughts on that, man. Cyrese, I'm out.
Cyrese, thanks so much for the call. And, the thing is, I don't think they were overestimating the Raiders wide receivers at all. If you remember, I didn't think that the Raiders needed to go out and make a move for a veteran, period. All right, I thought they were good with where they were. And I know that Jacoby Myers' trade request has come up, but I really don't think that their wide receivers are slacking. I know they have a couple guys that are young, so they want to make sure that they don't have the pressure on them to have to be successful right away. And, to Kirk Morrison's point, he was, I had him on this show, or I had part of the conversation I had with him on this show yesterday. He was saying that Amari Cooper is not a guy that you have to try to get him the ball. All right, they're gonna do what they have to do to get him the ball, right? Amari Cooper is just going to get open, right? Trey Tucker is, a guy that they have to find a way to get the ball, and he's not just an automatic open. So, there was a lot of truth to that when Kirk said that, it made a lot of sense. So they have Jacoby, he gets open. Obviously, they've got Brock, they got Big Mike, who looks like he's in a good spot. So Michael Mayer, he'll be a factor this year. Ian Thomas even, they're 3 tight ends deep. Not that they're all going to get a lot of burn or a lot of catches. There's guys on this Raiders team. I think this offense is going to be really good. I think that Chip Kelly's got the creativity to be able to use these guys in a way where there's a lot of threats on the field. So, I don't think we're overestimating how good these wide receivers could be. I know the defense last year, that was on me. Being at training camp every day, seeing the way that the defense was playing and shutting out the offense. Like you said, come to find out the offense was just really bad. So thanks so much for that. I do appreciate you. Just got time for a couple more. Up next, got a text from Podog in Maui. It's my favorite place to be, right? What up, Q? It's Podog from Hana, Maui in the 808. Let me hear everyone say, Coop. Your boy called it. Anyway, I have a good friend who's a Charger fan, and he and I and my son will be at that Week 2 Monday Night Football game, Raiders vs. Chargers, flying over 2,000 miles to see the game. Haven't seen a Raiders game in a stadium since 2009 in Oakland. I'm super excited. I'll see you at the Torch. Just win, baby. Raiders. Podog out. Podog, thanks for the text. Appreciate you. Can't wait to see you Week 2. And bring a little piece of Maui with you, man. It's my favorite place on earth. So anytime I get an opportunity to go there, I'm going. So basically that means after mandatory minicamp, before training camp. That little small window, that's when your boy is on the move. So thanks so much for that. Definitely appreciate you. We'll get one more text since that was a short one. This is from John C. in Denver. We'll close out with this. Hey, Q, love your show. Wanted to comment on the Stone Forsythe signing. I think one thing everyone's missing is look at what he does or doesn't do for that matter. He has never been flagged for a holding penalty. This 3rd and longs have killed us for years, and I think that Thayer Munford has been a big culprit with holding penalties in 3rd and long. As much as I love what JPJ brings, he did have a few penalties too many as a matter of fact. That may explain why he was in a battle to start. I think this is a good sign by the staff and shows what they're trying to fix. Keep doing what you do, John C. in Denver. Great nugget on the penalties, right? JPJ had 14 of them his rookie year. 14 penalties, right? Whether they're procedure, holding, unnecessary roughness after the penalty, whatever it was, 14 of them, and that team wasn't able to overcome those, right? You get into down and distance, you're not going to be able to overcome those if you're this Raiders team. And I don't think they're going to be able to overcome very many 3rd and longs. Most teams can't. A few teams do, but not too many are able to. So, no, that's a great point. Something to think about when you think about Stone Forsythe. Again, I've heard a lot of people really be like, man, they went from Thayer Munford and they got worse. But that right there is an upgrade just because he's not getting penalties. So we'll have to monitor that and pay attention to that. But really good text. Great way to close out the show. Well, Raider Nation, definitely want to hear from you again. 707-654-4693. What do you think about the Micah Parsons deal? Is that something that the Raiders should have been in on? Let me know your thoughts. Again, 707-654-4693. Today will be the last day that I do Joe and Q on ESPN Radio. It's been a minute since I've been on it, but this will be the last one. Rich Eisen takes over that spot next week. So Yeah, 9 a.m. to noon Pacific time, 12 to 3 Eastern time. Joe and Q for the last time on ESPN Radio. Then I'll go to game night starting next week. But that's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, if you didn't know what we're going to be talking about, yeah, Micah Parsons in college football. Those will be the two things we talk about the majority of the time through the course of 3 hours. But I'd love for you to tune in if you get an opportunity. Also, we'll definitely be back on Monday. I know it's Labor Day. It's a holiday. Don't have any radio shows that day, but this podcast will still be here on Monday. So whatever you do over the course of the weekend, make sure you stay safe, have fun doing it. And, of course, we'll be back on Monday. Also, I got to shout out one time before we get up. Sorry, Ari. I got to shout out to my guy, Down South Raider. All I could think of was Down South. All day long on Thursday, that's all I sung was Down South. That was it. And you saw earlier in the show, I did it again. So it's all your fault. Had a lot of people tweeting at me. It's like, oh, man, Q, that song stuck in my head. Yeah, welcome to the club. Mine too. So that's going to do it for today's show. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday on Labor Day. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.